So the Championship came back this weekend with a bang. Let's talk about it. Guys, welcome back to another video on the channel and welcome back to the Championship Roundup. These are the weekly videos that I like to put out as we go over and dissect all the action that took place in the Championship over the last weekend. Now, we got lots of talking points to go over today. I want to get your guys' thoughts on everything in the comments down below. We'll have the first Prediction League results out later in the week, and I'm fancying my chances of being fairly high up at the moment. I've had a pretty decent one with getting some score predictions correct off the bat. But without any further ado, let's jump into this one. And so starting out with the curtain raiser on Friday night, that saw Bournemouth draw 2-2 with West Brom. Come the end of the season, I'd be very surprised if each of these sides aren't up there this season. I thought they both put in a good display for this one, especially considering the players that Bournemouth had missing for this game. You know, putting that quality back into that 11. And yeah, Bournemouth I think are looking fairly good for this season under Scott Parker. I think we saw the sort of blueprint that each manager's tried to get across into each of these sides fairly early on as well. And some of the players that were coming in for Bournemouth in this game, you know, some of their youngsters took their opportunity. I thought they played pretty well, to be honest with you. Nice opening goal from Mark Condes to get off the mark on his debut. West Brom then responded with that goal from O'Shea. You can already see the threat from set pieces is there and putting those balls into the box, you know, like that was sort of a trademark of Valérien Ismaël's time at Barnsley as well. The forward three for West Brom, though, I quite liked, and they were quite intense off the ball. You can see that Valérien Ismaël's already had an impact with that side of their game. For West Brom, I thought their best player on the pitch probably was Callum Robinson. He obviously had that goal which was ruled out, which was, for me, a little bit soft. I'd welcome your guys' thoughts on that down below, but obviously when Bournemouth then made it 2-1 through Billing, Robinson levelled things up. And after that, really any team could have gone on to win this one, you know. David Brooks had an unbelievable chance, but it was a great save from David Button. Brilliant reflex save to get down there. Colin Grant then had a chance to win it for West Brom later on as well. So yeah, really entertaining game of football. I think both those sides will be strong this season. Next up then, and into Saturday's matches, we have Blackburn beating Swansea by 2-1. So this was the first game of the season, which I managed to correctly predict, which I'll take for this one. We mentioned it in the preview to this game, but it's going to be a bit of a process at Swansea over these next few weeks and months, really, for Russell Martin to really get his ideas across. But even in the few days that he's held on the training ground with this Swansea side, we can already see what type of football he's angling for this season. It's certainly a contrast to Cooper ball, which Swansea fans have been accustomed to over these last couple of years. In some instances, they probably played themselves into trouble on a few occasions. You know, they were a little bit rusty from playing at the back. In the end, that was what sort of led to them giving away that penalty. It was Bender in the end who took a bit of a bad touch, and Tyrus Dolan more than capitalised on that. From Blackburn's point of view, Adam Armstrong wasn't involved in this game like we all thought. But even without Armstrong, it's still a decent forward three for the Championship. You know, Gallagher and Brereton, who are both on the score sheet in this game, as well as Tyrus Dolan, who was the player that won the penalty. It's a youthful forward three. It's energetic. I think there's goals to be had there with Blackburn this season. Swansea did get back into the game through Jamie Patterson. I'm not sure what Kaminski was doing for that goal, but he did make up for it, to be fair, later on, making a fantastic save. And Blackburn were able to hold on to the 3 points. So, yeah, not the ideal start for Russell Martin, but there was certainly shades of what's to come perhaps over the season. Next then to Ashton Gate, where we have Bristol City drawing 1-1 with Blackpool. Frustrating for Bristol City, who controlled large spells of this match, particularly in the first half. They scored late on in that half. Lovely ball in from Andy King to the head of Chris Martin, and they deservedly went into half time with that 1-goal lead. Blackpool didn't really get out their half all too much in that first 45 minutes. Second half as well, the game had died down a little bit. Clear-cut chances were a little bit fewer and far between, up until sort of like the last 10 or so minutes of this game, when the momentum switched a little bit. Blackpool were throwing more bodies forward. They hit the post, and so the warning signs were there. And the equaliser was actually a really well-worked goal, to be fair. Keshi Anderson does well to pick out the pass between the lines to Josh Bowler, who tucks it inside for Lavery to equalise in the 93rd minute. So a real sucker punch there for Bristol City, who just hadn't managed to kill off the game earlier than this. Blackpool will take that, you know, points on the board after what looked to be a bit of a slow first 45 minutes. From Bristol City's point of view, there were some positives there, but it's a frustrating opening day result nonetheless, isn't it? Cardiff up against Barnsley ended as a 1-1 draw. It's so interesting early on this season in the Championship because we got so many new managers coming into the league, so many new styles from last season and stuff like that, that it's going to take a bit of time before I think we fully figure out all of these sides this season and sort of how they're going to be playing and how good they actually all are. But the early signs here from Barnsley and Marcus Schopp, I think look pretty promising, to be fair. They played some nice football in this one, although it was Cardiff who did take the lead in the second half, and it's already begun. Cardiff are scoring from set pieces. I think they're going to be right up there once again for the amount of set pieces that they score this season. I think it was them, Middlesbrough and Millwall who all led the way for them last season, wasn't it? But more unpacked with the opening goal. But we need to talk about that Barnsley equaliser because it was an absolute beauty of a goal. The pass, first of all, from Benson is absolutely unreal. Gets his head up from his own half, perfectly weighted pass it into the path of Sibic, who then takes the ball in his stride. Great first touch, drives at the Cardiff goal, and the finish to take it away from Phillips is absolutely brilliant as well. And in the end, this one finished as a 1-1 draw. If you watch my Championship predictions from the other week, I'm anticipating both these sides to be sort of competitive in the top half, and I think it's a decent start for each of them. Coming after that, we then had Derby drawing 1-1 with Huddersfield. If you watch my Championship prediction video earlier on in the season, I did have both these sides in my bottom three, but I think that each of them will take a point here on the opening day given the circumstances. You know, Derby have had to sort of muddle together a team for this opening weekend. They did manage to get some contracts sorted and have recently announced the signing of Ravel Morrison as well, which I'm interested and I might dive into in a little bit more detail on a future video. Huddersfield were also having their struggles coming into this game though, with their squad being a little bit depleted due to some of the issues that they were having with COVID. They were by no means at full strength for this game. It was Derby who took the lead as well. Curtis Davis with the opening one. Really weak defending here from Huddersfield. The ball comes in for a set piece. Schofield looked really weak for this one, like he did at times with sort of these balls coming into the box last season, and defensively they just seemed to be all over the place before Davis made that 1-0. Huddersfield did respond though just before half time. Nice ball in from Sorba Thomas from a set piece of their own, and Naby Sarr was there to head home. And in the end, these two sides couldn't be separated. So yeah, Huddersfield I don't think looked great in this one, but I'll sort of, you know, reserve my judgment until future weeks when they are back to full strength. But it was important for Derby that they got some points on the board early doors, so I'm sure that they'll, you know, take a point here in the opening game. Next up then, we had Luton beating Peterborough by 3-0. Now, one of the things that we flagged up in our Championship predictions before the season had started was how many goals Peterborough had shipped last season in League One. You know, they conceded 46 goals. One of my worries with them coming into this season is if something like this was to become a regular occurrence, you know, when they are shipping 2 or 3 goals a game, it makes it difficult then to be sort of competitive, you know, regardless of how many goals you might end up scoring. But Luton looked seriously impressive in this game, I have to say. Fred Onyedinma, I think, was the star of the show here with a goal and 2 assists. I think that all of Luton's forward 3 scored in this game, didn't they? It was Adarabioyo, Cornick and then Onyedinma. And there's so much to like about this Luton side at the moment. That forward 3 I think will score goals this season. It's got a nice balance to their midfield as well, and then with Bree and Bell providing some support from those fullbacks as well. Peterborough just never really seemed to get going for this one. They didn't get many shots off. I think they only had 4 shots in this game. And although Luton will definitely have sterner tests to come this season, what a start. And after that, we then had North End 1, Hull City 4. And when I say we were abysmal for this game, we were truly, truly hopeless. And things started off positively enough for us, you know. We went with this back 5. Barkey was pushing up as that right wing back, gets a good ball into the box, and Emile Rees opens his account for this season. But after that goal on the 8th minute, the momentum completely switched for the rest of the game here. Our wing backs were completely pinned back in our own half. There was no sort of adventure or forward thinking from them after the moment we scored that opening goal. Our midfield 3 was non-existent. Whiteman, Brown and Ledson, I thought, were all really shoddy in this game. Their work off the ball was poor, and that was seen by the goals that Hull scored, especially in the second half. But on the ball as well, there was a real lack of any sort of quality, which is concerning to say the least, because our midfield should be on paper sort of our strong suit. But the amount of sort of misplaced passes throughout the afternoon, people who were sort of lethargically getting back into positions and stuff like that, it's worrying signs early on, but I must give a lot of credit here to Hull. We mentioned in the preview to this game that their threats were going to come from their wide men looking to sort of pick up on those pockets of space behind our fullbacks and isolate our wide centre-backs. They did that to a T in this game. Jordan Storr and Andy Hughes had a really tough time in this one. Lewis Potter especially, I thought was absolutely brilliant for Hull. Their opening goal was a wonderful pass by Smallwood, and then he latches onto that ball and tucks it in, but he was a constant threat throughout the afternoon. We couldn't contain him whatsoever. Now in the second half we changed the shape, we made a couple of substitutes. Things started out fairly brightly, you know. Barkey was much more suited to that forward role than he was at right wing back, you know. For that opening goal he was poor, along with Jordan Storr. Well, he had a couple of chances and then Hull just completely flipped the script once again, and watching the goals back is so poor from a North End's point of view. You know, we're all talking about the need for a striker, and that definitely still needs to happen in this transfer window, but the quality in that back line, it's not good. Iverson, I thought, had an uncharacteristically poor day for him, and overall it was probably the worst start to this season that you could have imagined. But yeah, like I say, I have to give a lot of credit to Hull here because they really look good. Next then we had QPR playing out a 1-1 draw with Millwall. This was another one of the games over the weekend which I managed to correctly predict. Now Millwall started this game out really lively, loads of energy. Their two full-backs, wing-backs I should say, bombing on and getting forward, and they deservedly took the lead with an absolute beauty of a strike from Jed Willis. Puts the ball onto his left foot. He is, I mean, he's got to be one of the best wingers in the Championship, hasn't he? And he probably gets overlooked sometimes. I don't know why, maybe because he does play for Millwall and not one of the clubs who's sort of recently, you know, been coming down from the Premier League or something like that. But the guy's got quality in absolute abundance, hasn't he? And he showed it with that finish there. QPR, after a while, managed to wake themselves up though. And we saw this from him last season, but Rob Dickie can hit the ball. He was able to just wander into the midfield, which would have been, you know, disappointing from Millwall's standpoint, but gets a bit of room to get his shot off and then just goes for it, and fair play to him. Into the second half then, Millwall's energy levels had seemingly dropped off a little bit, and QPR probably had the better chances to go on and win it after that. But on reflection of the full 90, 1-1's probably fair. After that we then had Stoke beating Reading by 3-2. Now Reading are having quite a few troubles of their own at the moment, obviously with the financial situation off the pitch and on the pitch at the moment. They can only name 5 substitutes for this game, as their squad's really looking quite thin at this point in time, you know. Should any more injuries accumulate in this team, then they really could find themselves in a whole world of trouble. Having said that though, there are still players of real quality on the pitch for them, none more so than John Swift in this one, who was a real standout performer with a goal and an assist. But I like the look of Stoke in this one. I think it's fair to say, you know, they took the lead 3 times in this one. Reading kept getting back into it before Sam Surridge finally tucked away that winner in the 85th minute. I think that it's only going to be a good thing for him to get off the mark so early in his Stoke career. And to be fair, I remember last season Stoke started out the season fairly well, you know. The first couple months of this season they were mixing it in and around the top 6, and it was just as the year went on, their form just tailed off. So if they can maintain a consistent run of results for the first half of this season, then Stoke could very easily be there or thereabouts for the top 6 this season. It's a good looking squad on paper. As the later kick-off on Saturday, we then had Birmingham beating Sheffield United by 1-0. Now Birmingham just seem to have a knack for winning on the opening day of the season by 1-0. They've done it now in the last 3 seasons running. I think they were more than deserving of the 3 points in this one, to be honest with you. It wasn't like it was sort of like a smash and grab sort of performance, you know. They had the better chances in this game. The goal was absolutely brilliantly worked from Jeremy Bella. Cuts inside, whips the ball in, and Maxime Collin is there to meet it with the header. Ben Osborne a little bit weak for that goal from a Sheffield United's point of view. He did get another goal later on in the match as well, but that one was ruled out for a push in the box. But there were loads of bright spots from Birmingham in this game. You know, I thought that Chong looked good. Bella, like we said, when he got that assist. It was a very sort of structured team and performance. Scott Hogan had a good chance which he spooned over the bar. Djukovic was causing problems as he always does with his physicality. For Sheffield United, they look pretty average, to be honest with you. It's very early days, and obviously we won't be making any sort of rash judgments of them just there, and because, you know, Jokanovic has really just got his foot in the door there. But out of each of the 3 relegated sides that we've now seen in action this season, Sheffield United don't quite look on that level that perhaps a lot of us thought they might be. But it is early days and there's still room for a bit of work in the transfer market, but Birmingham will take that every day of the week. That's a great start to the season. Fulham up against Middlesbrough is our next game to go over, and this one finished as a 1-1 draw, so another one of the games from the weekend which I managed to correctly predict. Now, Middlesbrough were always going to turn out to be a stern test for Fulham on the opening day, but I can't help but feel like the home side may have had a few regrets after this game, given how well they started. Now, I thought that Wilson and Tete, especially on that right-hand side, were looking quite threatening throughout the afternoon for Fulham. You know, Wilson had a warning shot fairly early on, which Lumley managed to parry away, but I mean, his opening goal is just trademark Wilson. That's why they brought him in. Drags the defender with him, and then he only needs a small pocket of space to get his shot away. So lovely finish in the end, and when Fulham make it 1-0, from that point onwards, that was when they needed to kill the game off, because Middlesbrough weren't quite looking up to scratch at some of those points when Fulham really had them put under pressure. But the longer the game dragged on at 1-0, you could sort of sense Middlesbrough getting back into this one. And it was a lovely goal in the end, scored by Bowler. I thought that Tavernier did quite well in the build-up to this one. He went on a bit of a mazy run and dragged a few defenders into him. But then Bowler's finish on his left foot was just pure quality, wasn't it? And after that, Borough had some other chances of their own. But I think we saw enough from Fulham in this game to sort of suggest what they could be capable of this season. It was just in the final third, everything didn't quite sync up like they might have hoped, but great point for Middlesbrough there. And that's our last game to talk over. We had Coventry beating Forest 2-1 in very dramatic circumstances. Now, after Forest took the lead, I thought that I got my score prediction for this one spot on. The opening goal is all about Brennan Johnson. It's an absolutely incredible run. The pace he's got, he just burns his way past everyone that's chasing him, and then gets a brilliant ball tucked across into the path of Lyle Taylor, who's got a tap in to make it 1-0. Now, from that point onwards, I think we were all expecting Forest to be, you know, a little bit more protective of that scoreline. You know, Sheff Utd is one of those more pragmatic managers who likes to sort of protect what he has over sort of, you know, fully killing off the game and getting that second goal. And in the second half, that probably ends up being Forest's Achilles heel, really, because the energy levels and the willingness to get forward was a clear drop off in the second half from Forest, and Coventry more than took advantage of that in the end. Gyökeres with the equaliser. Wonderful work from Callum O'Hare in the build up to that goal, by the way, with a cheeky little nutmeg. I think it was on Jack Colback, wasn't it? And at 1-1, the momentum was going all the way for Coventry here. You know, Forest weren't getting back into this. They were happy to hold on for the point, you know, from that point onwards. And then in the 96th minute, Sheff Utd pops up with the winner. Now, could Bryce Samba have done better for this goal? Maybe. He gets a hand on it, but it's not enough to keep it out. But what a story that is for Coventry, you know. Back returning to their stadium to turn it around in the last minute as well. Forest will have to learn lessons from this, because you can't help but feel like, had they managed this game better, they could have walked away with a point or maybe all three. But guys, there we have it. That will now wrap it up for today's video. If you did go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like, and do get all your thoughts on this weekend's action in the comments down below. In terms of my results of the weekend, I'm going to have to give it to Hull City. You know, they absolutely smashed North End. It's their first game back up since being promoted from League One. And yeah, they blew us out the water. I'm also going to give the player of the weekend to Keane Lewis-Potter as well, because I thought he looked absolutely electric for Hull. In terms of my goal of the weekend, definitely got a few contenders in here, but I think I'm going to give it to Jed Wallace for his goal against QPR. So get all your thoughts on that in the comments down below. But apart from that, thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.